Thank you for listening to the Business and Beyond podcast.
We appreciate all of our listeners. If this is your first time listening to the Business and Beyond podcast, we hope you enjoy this episode. Episode 50 of the Business and Beyond podcast is brought to you by Raze Energy by Rep Sports. Get your Raze Energy drinks at repsports.com and use our coupon code BUSINESSBEYOND to get an extra 15% off your order. And speaking of coupon codes, in episode 49, we had Zachary Green on, author, Marine, entrepreneur, his book, Warrior Entrepreneur. You can still get 50% off that book using his coupon code podcast2021.
Yeah, that's here, and also the link will be in the
description out for his website as well as the Raze Energy link as well. And podcast 2021, even though we're going into 2022, this being our last episode of 2021, that coupon code will be good for another month or so.
And what a way to end 2021 with our 50th episode.
Episode number 50, yeah.
I mean, we're over the hill now.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from here.
We're excited.
We talked about it earlier, nearly 2 years we've been doing this podcast. We're creeping up on the 2-year mark.
Yeah, and if you're one of our original listeners, you know we've talked about reaching episode 6, which 90% of podcasts stop on average at episode 6. 90% on average, is that right? Is that the right terminology? Anyways,
on average,
90%. On average, 90%. So, yeah, we're in the, I don't even know what percentage we're in now. We're in the top something. I haven't looked since we've gotten, past episode 10 and we're on. And again, on the coupon code, if for some reason the coupon code doesn't work, if you happen to listen to this podcast in a couple of months, just message us. We'll get you a copy.
Yeah.
No problem. And for our 50th episode, I was hoping we'd talk about a subject a little more fun, exciting, but not really, kind of depressing in the world of
a little darker.
Side hustle, entrepreneurship, and going in some of the new tax laws coming into 2022.
And we're going to try to keep this as fresh and fun and interesting as possible.
And,
Nobody
and
likes talking about taxes, but
we're not going to talk about the politics of it. It is one way or the other, but whether who you voted for won or not, if you're an entrepreneur dealing with this, it affects you, and we're not going to alienate anybody.
Well, regardless, here in just a few days, some of these kind of taxes, they've been there. Some of the terminology and the way it's going to work now going forward is going to change, and it all has to do with Form 1099-K. So a lot of the small businesses are familiar with the 1099. Anything over $600 earned, you're 1099'd by a contractor or whoever you're doing the business with, right? And you would pay taxes on anything over that 600 is what you would be taxable.
To preface this a little bit, just perking your ears up, the people this is going to affect the most are the ones that use Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, PayPal, things like that, where we'll talk more about it, but if you use any of those apps and maybe you're a side hustle or a very small business, maybe you don't file taxes exactly the right way the government expects you should, this can affect you.
This is going to drastically affect you. So we would be looking at, as of this coming year, starting in 2022 and carrying through, that you would have to file, or you would receive a 1099-K in 2023 for your 2022 income from Venmo, like you said, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, any of those, for in lump, not a single transaction, but in whole, all of your income is over $600. Those companies will be sending you a 1099-K form.
As an entity, not like that's what you paid yourself. No, $600
of transactions,
sales as a company,
income.
Or I use air quotes if you're watching on YouTube,
even
because that's what we're going to get back.
Yeah, even singly, if me on my personal Venmo, I'm collecting money on transactions, and this is where there is a little bit, if someone's reimbursing you money, paying for your lunch, those wouldn't fall into that 1099K. Those would be excluded out of that. It's going to be any sales for products or services, your lawn services, anyone selling t-shirts, hats, any products, cups, anything online that they're selling and you're making the payment through, those would be. So depending on how they're categorized.
The lady I get my haircut from, she had her own business and she's working, renting space somewhere else, and that's how I pay, is through Zelle or whatever. Exactly. I don't know how she does her taxes, but this may drastically affect her if
she's at least.
I mean, she's making.
She's at least going to get a 1099K form from Venmo.
Unless she, texts me next time I schedule an appointment and say bring cash. That's where I think a lot of this is going to head. Going to go. Heading towards.
So I mean, as fast as technology is moving forward, do we see a step back this next year in it? Or maybe even beyond, because a lot of people, we hope that a lot of people get this information early and can make whatever adjustments or, prepare themselves for this year. But anyone, coming into 2023 may be surprised when they get an email for a 1099K form that they need to file with their taxes. And now they're going to be responsible for taxes on these forms. Or on these amounts that are on these forms.
And depending on the situation, you could even be audited by the IRS and figure out should you be paying that self-employment tax
as well.
An extra 15%. Because it may be something like, hey, I'm going to sell you this. And in general, I probably would sell it for cash now. But you don't have any sort of business. It's not a side hustle. You're just selling it. If you make enough, that might flag it to.
There's enough gray area in this that we've had yard sales where we have people send us, hey, can I pay you through Venmo? And they will pay for something, whatever they get at our yard sale through Venmo. Now that's going to be subject to taxation through the 1099K form. Yeah. Any Venmo. So now, even if you do pretty well on your yard sales, garage sales, you're possibly going to be responsible for some tax.
Yeah, and I wonder, they sent out the form if they've done $600 worth of transactions per app. Like yes.
Yes.
So
just like it would be now per contractor. If I did work for you that was over $600. You would send me a 1099. And if I do work for someone else, they would send me a 1099. Every entity.
So you need to make sure, for example, I bought a piece of furniture on Facebook Marketplace a couple weeks ago, and it was about $300. It wasn't, the lady was going to get rid of it. It wasn't a situation where she sells this for a living or anything like that. But I paid her through Cash App. Mm-hmm. So if you're paying attention to your finances and you do kind of this little side hustle going on, once you get to $550 on Cash App, hey, I only accept Zelle right now. And once you get up to $500 on Zelle, hey, I only accept PayPal, or whatever.
You really are going to have to, as an individual that's not, you're really going to have to be careful selling property, buying and selling. Someone that buys and sells trading cards or something, you really are now going to have to pay attention to that or be prepared for a tax hit, or at least have your documentation put together properly to show what your taxable amount really should be. Because say I buy this bottle here, $100, and later this year it becomes worth $200, and I say I'm going to sell this, and I sell this to you for $200. Well, I paid $100 for it. Now I'm selling it for $200. I'm going to get, and assuming I go over my $600 limit, right? Then I'm going to be responsible for paying tax on this now, even though I have expense of $100 in it. So now I have to keep up with my books well enough to make sure that I can show and prove that I have expenses involved in that.
On the little memo line that I usually ignore, because I know what I spent money on in general because it came out of my bank account. But on that memo line, when I don't know if you put it on there, but for lawn service, or you can type something in there. Now that becomes very important, what you spent money on.
It absolutely
does.
So
if I sell this to you for $200, maybe you're putting on that memo that you're reimbursing me for a really big lunch or dinner or something like that. Like you said,
it's very important what you put on there. Now, I don't know, can they track emojis? If I put an emoji on there for something, can they say, oh, this is for a product or service?
Well,
How does that?
Well, if you're close to that 600, like if you do 800 and you have reasons for this, it may go under the table under the table. It may go past IRS's radar. But if you make a certain amount and they're like, well, this person doesn't have a business, but they made $1,000 on Cash App last year. I don't know if the first year is going to. I think over and over, or you're doing several thousand and it's continuous year after year, I think for sure you could be audited because they're going to want to know what you have going on. The person this really hurts is just the person with a side hustle that isn't really looking to set up a legitimate business. It's somebody looking to buy and sell some things to make a little quick extra cash. And in this economy, who doesn't need a little bit of extra cash? Yeah, because, talking about selling this bottle or trading cards, whatever, you can fudge whatever you need to fudge to make that more legit. And
before, we're not saying
disclaimer.
No, don't pay taxes.
Yeah, disclaimer.
Absolutely pay every tax you're responsible for paying, but there's tons of loopholes to not pay tax. That's what we're getting at is look at all the options on the table.
Yeah, full disclaimer. We're really warning you that you're going to have to pay extra taxes.
And reach out to a tax professional.
Reach out to us. We know people too. Yeah, reach out to us if you need a tax person. But, so those people are clear if, we're just doing we're going to be close to that 600, but it's not, really shouldn't be taxable. So we're good there. And then even small businesses that are legit, that do their taxes mostly correct the way, they're good because they may or may not have to pay extra taxes now because of this. But as an entity, they're set up correctly where if they get audited, they're set up, they have the right, whether the LLC, sole proprietor, whatever, they're all set up that correct way, paying the correct taxes, corporate, whatever they're paying. But it does hurt the side hustle people who make quite a bit of money that aren't set up at all that way. They're just like, it's just, when I Ubered years ago, they would send me a 1099 form, but I didn't have any kind of entity set up. I just went straight to my bank account. My tax person would...
You filed the 1099 personally.
And they got all of our expenses together like, hey, this is a business, and basically it was a wash anyways. But, if you get audited and they say, hey, you should really be setting it up this way, or, you're paying that extra 15% self-employment tax, or there's a lot of fees that a lot of people don't understand when you set up businesses. They're just like, hey, I'm good at this, or I make these, I'm going to sell them. Yeah. How do I? And then they go through all the research and like, screw this, I'm just going to do it on the side. I don't need to, set up a business. But with everything inflated these days, people trying to make money, $600, $1,000 isn't as much as it seems to be.
Worth what the hassle could be?
Yeah.
In doing that,
it's like if you're right there around $700-800, it's really going to hurt you because now you're just paying these extra taxes and making less money. If you're making $2,000, $3,000, it's a hit, but you definitely don't want to say screw this, I'm not paying taxes, and throw up a red flag and have the IRS come
in comparison to what it is currently. It's before it's reportable is $20,000 per individual per year, and even that is as long as it's not over 200 transactions. If you were over 200 transactions or the $20,000 mark, then it would be reportable and you would be subject to taxation on that. If you're doing $20,000 on those, that's, I think you could afford to pay some tax and should be at that point, or 200 transactions, you should have your side hustle legitimate and you should be set up.
It's, side hustle gets thrown around more like a slang term. If you're doing over 200 transactions, I don't know that it's a side hustle necessarily.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're somebody who, just past Christmas that makes tamales for a bunch of people, I could see you making tamales for 50 to 100 people.
Well, think of the people that have like Etsy shops. They're going to be hit big time. On our Etsy shop, I actually, it's like about a month now ago, they sent me an email that they needed me to fill out some tax forms if I wanted to continue to use Etsy, because I guess we never filled those out because of this new law that's going in, tax law, that they needed that information so they could start reporting on that.
Yeah, and make sure as a small business owner, side hustler, whatever you're doing, that you research and understand and know these terms, because whether you're going to, I don't want to say comply, that's the wrong word, but if you're just say, okay, well, I'm going to move forward with my business, do what I have to do to stay legit. Mm-hmm. It's a bad situation if on December 30th you get an email saying, hey, this is what's going to happen, and it's a complete shock. It's going to, I'll say, screw some people, it's going to annoy some people, but if you have everything the up and up, what's happening, for the most part, the laws, what you're doing, what your business is and where you sit. It's more of a nuisance than anything. You should, we always encourage you to know where you are, even if you're just doing a stupid side hustle. Well, know where those tax laws put you. Like we put as a disclaimer before, we're not saying you should skip out on taxes. Of course not. You should always pay your taxes. But if you're in a situation where you're not going to do that necessarily, you still need to understand what you're not complying with or not doing. Mm-hmm. So now,
just to be prepared when you receive a 1099 that you didn't
you're going to look at it and rip it up and not understand what it is.
Exactly. Or delete an email or trash that, but to also be prepared to pay whatever taxes would be coming with that. Because if you are not complying at the moment and you're making $10,000 a year on your Cash App and you're just pocketing all of that and you're not planning on paying taxes, and then next year this comes around, you made another $10,000 and you get a 1099 for it, you want to make sure, because now it's on record, through the IRS, that you're bringing in $10,000 through that app.
Nobody making $10,000 a year that's not paying their taxes and listening to our show.
Well, probably not.
Because we give really good advice.
Yeah, we would never give you advice and tell you
this
not
is
to pay your taxes.
Definitely the most tax happy or tax infused show we've ever done. But
I thought you were going to say we were the most tax happy group.
No,
the most tax happy podcast.
No, we're trying to keep it fun and light, but I think of it as a badge of honor. Our entrepreneur listeners are some of the best informed, the most informed, I think, at least the ones who reach out to us. So, but for sure, if you're making $10,000 extra on the side through whatever business, you're obviously doing something.
Yeah.
Something right. If you're just making the extra $10,000 on the side, that you can grow that and make more money, and that's a situation where it kind of sucks, but it's not screwing you to pay the taxes.
Something else that it would be important is, we'll use Venmo for example. If you use Venmo for your business and you have a Venmo, and maybe it's your personal Venmo, and you're using that with business transactions, that maybe you should look at setting up a separate Venmo account for your business alone. Because what would happen is if personally you're running transactions, yard sales, or selling furniture, or anything that you have going on aside from your business, those will get lumped together now. So you don't want transactions from your personal use that may not even reach the $600 mark to be subject to the tax of a business that may well go over that $600 yearly.
And my brother-in-law lived with us for probably 10 months last year, and he was paying a few $100s in rent, and he was, or was it this? Well, part of last year into this year, but he was zelling us, a couple $100 at a time. So whether or not we can dig deep into it, if someone from the IRS is listening, I shouldn't have said any of that, but what kind of taxes should you pay for that? We weren't,
It's more reimbursement at that point.
Yeah.
But
we would be subject, having over $1,000.
But now you're going to get into a situation where now you have to show, okay, well, you're bringing that in, but now what are your expenses going out?
Yeah, we would have to say, well, that technically wasn't rent. That was just, food, whatever. And really it was, it's
a reimbursement for
you can afford it because you're not living in your, where you're renting now. We're just giving you dirt cheap rent. Now that may be something where the IRS should say, you should pay taxes on that. And maybe my little bit of, $1,000 to $2,000 won't throw up a red flag where you're going to get audited. It's just like anything else. But it would be really, stupid for something little like that where you don't think's going to come back. But when how much tax would that? How much would you pay in taxes for just a little bit over? And now you're gonna have to pay all these extra fees, all this extra, however far this goes during an audit, when you could have just paid it in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, you can get somebody, that, we know, or we have a friend that bakes, and around the holidays loves to bake and provide those things, and sells them at a very reasonable cost. I mean, it's not making a ton of money. It's more just for a love of doing that. I bet
you that person makes more than $600 though.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, and not that they aren't claiming it, we don't know. Now they will have to claim that because it's going to be filed. So it kind of is.
Or they're going to say, hey, this cash only.
And maybe that's, we're not going to sugarcoat it. That's been the workaround for how many centuries?
Forever.
As long as
legal immigration, tax, I don't want to say tax fraud, but just getting out of paying taxes. And
it's just like somebody finding every expense they can to not pay taxes. There's legal ways to get around not paying your taxes or deferring your taxes to a later time. Now this is just one more thing that we got to throw in there, and it really seems, for the IRS's side, it seems minuscule. It seems like why mess with this? But I think, I don't know if we talked about it on the show, maybe just us having a conversation about the economy, the way, employment has been low, right? You can't find anyone to work anywhere. But what we've also seen reports where side hustles and small businesses are on the rise. So it's not so much that people don't want to work, it's that people don't want to work for the man. They're starting their own side hustles.
That's a good preview for a future episode we have in the works.
Their own businesses. They're, and maybe that's where we were talking about it. But they're out doing that now, right? So now the IRS realizes that. And they know that they have to start capitalizing. If they don't have enough people in the workforce, they're not collecting enough tax to spend at the rate they're spending at, then they have to find a way to capitalize and bring back in more of those tax dollars that are being spent in this economy.
And that's what it comes down to, that with, I don't know necessarily the statistics on if less people are working as opposed to are there more jobs available. We can get into it another time, but there's various reasons why there is a shortage of labor. Whether it's, people wanting to stay on welfare and not work, it's people starting their own side hustles.
Yeah.
People leaving jobs for better jobs, which I don't see how that would be a problem for our economy. I get it, but you can go into, maybe minimum wage. There shouldn't be a minimum wage for that reason, so you can get more of, because no one's going to hire a 16-year-old kid at $15 an hour. You're going to hire the older people, and there's a lot of different, that's why it's politics. It's not necessarily one right answer. There's pros and cons to everything. But you have a certain number of people not paying taxes or the same income taxes they were before, doing something else, or maybe they're less. They got a part-time job instead of their full-time job, and now they're doing a side hustle, and it's just a side hustle. They're not going to, worry about. It's more trouble to pay to get all the taxes anyways. Why would the IRS even care? And yeah, that's true. That's just a tiny amount of money. But then you think, how many people could this be? 1 million? A couple of million? Yeah. 100 million? I don't know. How many? What statistics showing that people are downgrading whether they're quitting their job or just taking less hours or taking a part-time job and doing, how much money is that leaving? And whatever you want to think about politics, it's,
Well, how much tax dollars is that leaving and not? of not unreported tax dollars.
And the certain party that's in charge, whether it's good, bad, like I said, it's politics. It's just one way they operate. They operate where the government funds more things and controls more. So they need more tax dollars. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter which side of the aisle, that is what they stand for. And so is that something, well, they have to fund more things, so they need more. So it's, rather than people to raising taxes, we're just lowering the threshold for where you have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
And well, it brings up a whole
to an extent, it's not so much lowering. It's in this situation, yes, it would be lowering from the 20,000.
Lowering the scenario or lowering the standards it's a factor
you should have been. They hadn't found a tax law to combat.
They're using technology and
digital
utilizing
transactions.
That,
exactly.
Utilizing
They're catching up now to technology to capture those tax dollars now and write a law that allows them to collect that.
So right now, you don't see a lot of pushback from these companies. And off the top of my head, I don't know how big some of these companies are. Obviously, PayPal and Venmo are a lot bigger than I think Cash App is, because Cash App's relatively new. Zell's they're good-sized companies. So right now, they're just having to add an extra step to what they're doing. Like, hey, just fill this out. We're sending you a form. It shows you're over here. You do it. It's just like the IRS, making us do it all ourselves.
Yeah.
And then the question is, how does that affect them when, hey, I'm just going to have you pay cash now. I'm not going to use Venmo or Zelle as much. I don't know how their pay scale works or how much money. I mean, I'm a little more familiar on Venmo's side, but is that a lot of money they're going to be losing this year? And do they start to fight back?
I mean, essentially the name is in Cash App. I mean, it's designed to be cash transaction, driven
situation. Yeah, not literal cash, but it's like it's not. I'm paying a service for your Cash App. I'm buying a bottle of liquor from you because we're friends or relatives, and we're into we don't drink very often, but we are connoisseurs, if you want to say, with liquor, and I don't want to have to pay taxes on a hobby that I don't even spend that much money on. I already pay taxes. So, well, this was a gift, but when I buy a bottle of liquor, I've already paid taxes on it. When I buy,
I guess we need to start gifting each other more.
Exactly. Yeah, that curio cabinet we bought was bought by somebody before who already paid taxes on it, and although they're not going to pay taxes on it again, they would pay taxes.
They would if you purchased
if they paid over $600 for it, they would be required to pay taxes on it again. Mm-hmm. So you're paying taxes to buy something and to sell it at the same time, which if
it's a sticky situation, the way it's set up, and maybe the system's been abused a little bit, and that's why this has become a problem. Because you do have a lot of small businesses using these platforms when maybe they should have set up another type of payment platform. You know what I mean?
And maybe it's not so much
because I run 99% of my transactions for my business run through Square. That's what I use for my credit card processing, payment processing, invoicing. I run everything through Square. And
Square's a little bit more set up for on a professional level where you're probably already set up.
Yeah, exactly.
Not so much as you're making a certain money you should.
It's very rare that I accept transactions through,
because it takes a little bit of time and organization to get things set up on Square for certain. Zelle's just like, hey, you owe me this much money, just sell it to me.
Well, and especially for a business, if you're just testing the waters to even see if you want to do it as a business. Like you mentioned, a hobby. That's a great thing. Is what if you're buying liquor or model trains or trading cards? You're buying those and then you want to resell them again. You're going to get hit with that whatever you're selling them at now. So you're really going to need really good documentation.
And maybe it's a situation that the IRS is probably not going to waste its time on people that make $1,000 and aren't.
I mean, think of how much additional work this is going to add to them on everyone's.
And they may not go after it. Maybe that's why the threshold's $600, because
it's always been $600.
Well, yeah, but going back, forget the cat. The law may have always been $600 because if we make it $10,000, people making 11 and 12,000 aren't going to mess around with it. But we want that. So if we go down to 600, people that make 10,000, they are probably, should they expect people to go over it a little bit and fudge the numbers? Are they really going to go after that much money? Don't take my word on this. If you're listening, you should pay your taxes even if you made $700 through Cash App or whatever, starting next year. Maybe they don't expect people to go after that. They say, yeah, people who make $1,000 aren't going to bother, but that's okay. We're just making sure that people that, make 10,000
I would say
are going to,
for
maybe
sure,
it scares them into it.
Pay your taxes on these when you receive these 1099Ks, but also make sure you're tracking your expenses and use those write-offs that you can when you have expenses in this. If you're printing t-shirts and you have expenses in ink and materials and products, make sure you're tracking that and keeping up with that now. It's very important for you if you haven't been previously to track that.
Damn, if we had a financial advisor or tracking advertiser, that's a perfect. Maybe I watch too much YouTube, but that would be the part of the video where you should be doing this, and then you go, you'd almost think that's a plug.
Well,
you're getting good at this podcast.
Maybe if we have someone that we want to do that, we've got a spot available, $599.
99 cents for the year.
For the whole year.
For the whole year. You be the first one, so you get to pick which app you want to use. Mm-hmm. And the only one app per advertiser.
Per advertiser.
Yeah, and then it's just cash only.
We're making fun. We're trying to keep this light. And it's a situation that's not very light. And I'm sure to a lot of...
And nobody really wants to talk about tax code.
I'm sure, especially to a lot of small businesses and hobbyists, this is going to be... can almost be devastating for them if they're doing a significant amount of business that they haven't been paying tax on up to this point. Because now you're going to lose. You could lose a significant amount of that money that. Yeah, let's just say in theory you could say wasn't ever yours, shouldn't have been yours, but if you're using it to live on in this economy, this could be tough.
Let's say you're doing $1,200 a year, which is double the threshold, but hey, that's $100 extra a month. As a side hustle, that's that's nothing crazy to scoff at. That's and you're just doing it. You don't plan on it growing. You don't plan on it being your main thing. It's like, hey, it's an extra $100 a month, and now you're gonna have to pay taxes on that. Where is it even worth it that way? What are you paying? What are you getting $60 extra a month now for whatever you're working for?
What's the situation like? I know a lot of people that are in hard times that come around Christmas time. They start selling off a lot of things to get money for Christmas. What are they gonna? Now you're gonna get hit with you're gonna have to pay taxes on money you're selling personal items to pay for Christmas now. It's gonna throw a wrench in things for sure.
Especially if they ever stop physically printing money. Talk about getting rid of the penny. If they ever got rid of cash, physical cash, dude, this would could be an issue because a lot of people are going to do it. They're just like, okay, well, I'm not using, just pay me cash now. A lot of legitimate small business side hustles that can get kind of complicated because you want to offer convenience for your customers. Yeah. But when I buy or sell something on 5 Mile or Facebook Marketplace, so it's somebody has to come pick it up or I have to go deliver or whatever. So it's not that inconvenient to get cash because I'm already going to go out.
Except for having to go and actually get the physical cash.
But yeah, if I'm going out somewhere, hey, I'll stop by the bank on the way. I'm going to pass the bank at some point, so I'll get cash. Who cares? But when I got my haircut, they said, yeah, we don't take hard cash or any of these apps. And it was like, well, I didn't have cash. I don't care. I have all the apps. Yeah. But if they said cash only, well, this kind of... it's kind of awkward. I don't have to get you. Didn't tell me.
Yeah.
If that's the situation, and I don't know if my haircut lady texted me and said, "Hey, cash only." I'm like, okay, next time I need a haircut, I'm gonna get cash. I don't care. I like her work.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you're testing the waters on somebody new, service or product, they say, "Yeah, it's cash only." I'm like, okay, well, I'm not gonna deal with you then because I don't want to get cash.
Maybe and they do that out of convenience, but maybe out of empathy, it would be a good stronghold this next year to try to offer to pay cash versus possibly using up their space. For someone like your hairdresser that's maybe it's just in between and just needs
there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff happening.
Dog groomers or anybody, I mean, our dog groomer we pay through Venmo.
And
so
we use the same dog groomer. It's out of their house.
Yeah.
It's
not that they're not legitimate and they don't pay, but
they might pay taxes just fine, but I know it's probably a side thing. I don't expect that they pay their mortgage and their whole family. Maybe they do. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I assume it's not.
So I could see that all these small businesses, small hobbyists, side hustles have to increase prices if they have to start now accounting for, hey, I have to pay taxes, or maybe I have to go in and set up my business as a legitimate self-employment. Now I have this additional tax to pay. My prices have to increase.
Yeah, it's just it's how economics works.
Mm-hmm.
As argument with raising minimum wage. Okay, yeah, it's not the argument. Is it the right thing to do, or is it worth it, or what are the ramifications? If I'm a small business owner, maybe I'm just going to pay them more.
The minimum wage increases the minimum cost to live.
So, whoever, if, my payroll goes up $2,000 a month, I'm going to have to raise my prices. Not necessarily. Maybe some companies are like, okay, whatever, good for them. But probably not, because they had them at below whatever they raised minimum wage for a reason. So they have to raise their income. And that's, and not to, paint business owners as evil people. They have to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe some of them just pay taxes. Okay, great. But some of them say, I can't afford to do this. They go out of business or raise my prices.
Yeah.
And it's easier just to raise prices and see what happens. Maybe you go out of business anyways. But yeah, a lot of, I see a lot of transactions in the future being with cash.
Mm-hmm.
Until they start tracking your ATM. Hey, you took out over $2,000 in cash in your ATM.
And that was part of the, one of the things I think that ended up getting taken off the table on the bill I think that this was in, is that they were going to track any transactions into your bank account that were over $600.
Or you go the other way, because they're they're not relying on you to do the right thing. They're relying on PayPal,
mm-hmm.
Venmo, whatever, to send you that, and they report it themselves.
Yeah.
So you have to put the numbers in the correct order. So, I mean, it would be a lot of logistical issues, but saying, hey, Tony, you took out X amount of money out of the ATM this month. What all did you spend? You need to track that. So you put, hey, I paid a dog groomer 3 times this year, this much money in cash. So now they need to, and track, that is it. At that point, is it worth it? But at some point, they're just going to keep, they're going to close loopholes, and more loopholes are going to open.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they could ever completely close them all up, but it does put more burdens on small businesses, when that's really, that backbone of the economy. You take away all small businesses, and now everyone has to go to Walmart for absolutely everything.
And not to get too political, but there are some parties that's like you said, that's how they have to operate. That they need to operate. They need to see everyone in a W-2 job. They need you there, not 1099. But we know the economy runs on small business.
Yeah, absolutely. And not every business, it's not necessarily they're breaking the law, but there are a lot of loopholes that you may scoff at and say, you talk about billionaires doing certain things with their taxes where they're not breaking the law, they're doing loopholes, and you want to say, hey, they're going after, small businesses. Would you, what do you do when you do your taxes? You write off what you can.
Mm-hmm.
You find out, maybe you can get into certain situations with, really smart and informed tax professionals to even button it down more. But as Americans, we try to pay the least amount of taxes possible. That's what we do. I'm trying to figure out, whether I get the biggest refund possible or pay the least amount of taxes.
Mm-hmm.
possible. I'm writing off anything I can because that's the law. That's the law they wrote. If
Yeah.
they can find different loopholes, that's what anybody would do.
There's tax advantages in that, and it's up to you to find them. Well, this is a great way to end the year. 50 episodes.
Just bumming everybody out now, and small business owners who are thinking about going into business now, like, screw that.
Yeah, this isn't worth it. No, it is still worth it.
Yeah,
it is still worth it.
It'll be tough once you get over that $600. The $600 threshold. That's who it's really going to hurt the most.
Yeah,
it's not the people making $30,000. Yeah, maybe they have to pay more taxes if they weren't before. But the people that are saying I'm not paying taxes and they were making $600 to a couple thousand, that's a significant amount of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's less technically, but you have less cash influx, and it's sorry to bum everybody out. I hope everybody had a great Christmas.
Coming off a great Christmas, man. We hope everyone did, and you know
Good
what?
New Year.
We want to wish you a happy New Year, and to all of our listeners, Happy New Year.
And we'll be back next year.
We'll see you in 2022 for an even better year, guys. Thank you again for supporting the Business and Beyond podcast.
Be sure to hit the subscribe button to be alerted every time we post a new episode.